When I was a junior in high school, my stepmother finally left my father. After that, the house changed. It's hard to explain unless you felt it yourself. Some places carry an atmosphere so heavy it feels alive, like the walls are watching you breathe. That's what the house became. Dad worked late most nights, so I spent a lot of time there alone. At first, nothing unusual happened. I'd come home from school, finish homework, waste time online until midnight, normal teenage stuff. Then the feeling started. Every night before bed, I'd walk into the kitchen to refill my water bottle. The refrigerator sat right beside the basement stairs. And I hated those stairs. Not because of how they looked, because of how they felt. The basement light barely worked, so half the staircase disappeared into darkness. And every single time I walked near it, I felt this awful sensation crawl up my spine, like something was standing at the bottom, waiting. My father spent hours down there working on projects, so logically there shouldn't have been anything to fear. But logic didn't matter in that house, because eventually the feeling changed. It stopped feeling like something was watching me. It felt like something wanted me. Every night after turning off the lights downstairs, I'd rush back toward my bedroom, heart hammering in my chest because I could feel it behind me, following me. Not walking, gliding, like cold air pouring through the hallway. I got so terrified of that routine that I almost started sleeping with every light in the house turned on. Finally, one night, I waited for my dad to come home. I told him everything. Unlike my stepmother, he believed in spirits. He listened quietly while I explained the feeling in the basement, the pressure in the air, the sense that something angry lived down there. And then he said something I'll never forget. He shrugged and told me it was probably an animal spirit. A dog or cat maybe, he said. A stupid spirit. The second those words left his mouth, the house exploded with rage. I'm not exaggerating. One moment, everything was normal. The next, it felt like all the air had been ripped out of the kitchen. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened so hard I doubled over gasping while this violent wave of hatred swept through the room. It felt ancient, intelligent, furious. I looked at my father, and I remember saying, in a voice that barely sounded like mine, "It didn't like you calling it stupid." My dad's expression changed immediately. Then I whispered something that still haunts me to this day. "It's at the bottom of the stairs." The basement door was only a few feet away. Dad slowly turned toward it. I don't know what he saw. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But the color drained from his face. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. The darkness below the stairs felt endless, like the basement had suddenly become much deeper than it should have been. Dad finally muttered something under his breath and tried forcing whatever it was to leave, but it didn't. After that night, things quieted down, a little. The feeling still followed me upstairs, still lingered outside my bedroom door, still waited near the basement. But now it kept its distance, almost like it understood we were aware of it. Years later, my father met the woman who would become his fiancée, Lisa. She hated the house immediately. She never said why directly, but I could see it in her face whenever she walked past the basement stairs. Eventually, I moved out to live with my mother and sister, leaving Dad and Lisa alone there. And then something happened that neither of them could explain. Dad was away in Illinois for work. I was out of the country with family. Lisa was completely alone in the house. At around 3 in the morning, she woke up to loud knocking at the front door. Not polite knocking, violent knocking, the kind that rattles the walls. Her little dog started barking uncontrollably but refused to leave her side. Lisa stayed frozen in bed, listening as the front doorknob slowly began to shake. Someone was trying to get inside. For 15 straight minutes, the knocking continued. Then, suddenly, Silence. A few minutes later, it started again. This time at the back door. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Lisa never got out of bed, never looked outside. She stayed completely still until sunrise. There was never any proof that someone had been there. No footprints, no broken locks, nothing. But deep down, I think she knew. The same thing my father and I had known for years. Something lived in that house, and it did not want us there. Not long after that, my father and Lisa moved to California, and the house in Wisconsin was put up for sale and abandoned. Sometimes I still think about going back. Part of me wants to stand at the top of those basement stairs one last time and look into the darkness. But another part of me remembers the feeling of that thing breathing hatred from below. And I know some doors are better left closed, because whatever waited in that basement was never human.